Hello YouTube friends, Ben.o.cichlid here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to talk with you about five diseases that can kill our fish. And some of these we've had experience with. Unfortunately, some of these I've never had experience with, and I hope I never do, and I hope you never do either. But these are five that I've looked into, and they seem pretty deadly, and in some cases relatively unknown. And before I get going here, I just want to point out that I'm using a microphone from a company called Pop Voice. You can see it here, Pop Voice. This is the PV510 Plus. It was provided to me by a company that markets through Amazon. Right around the time I was starting to hear some comments about difficulty hearing me in videos, they reached out to me and said, would you like a microphone, and if you could test it, just do a review on Amazon, we'll send it to you. I said sure. So definitely comment below, let me know what you think about the sound of this video and how it compares to prior videos. I'd appreciate that. So let's jump into the five diseases that kill. And the first one is one that just the name alone is a little scary. It's a hemorrhagic septicemia. And what makes this one so scary is that it's not going to show outward signs. Very often the fish will simply have a hemorrhaging in the organs of the fish, and then that fish will simply tip over and die. So this disease is really a strong case for quarantine. Certainly quarantine new fish for at least a month, and avoid hemorrhagic septicemia from entering into your tank. Sometimes you might get some indications, maybe some swelling in the eyes, maybe some streaks or sores around the areas where there has been a hemorrhage in the body of the fish. But normally you'll find that it will simply tip over, and sometimes you'll get a person talking about, my fish seemed okay and then he just died. Well, if it's not old age or something like that, then you might have had a bout of hemorrhagic septicemia. So another one that is more common, that you hear more about, is the tail, fin, and mouth rot. And as the name implies, this is an ugly disease. It simply starts to eat away at the fish, and it's a progressive deterioration of the tail, fins, and they become frayed, and the color can get away. Can go away. And what you have very often in this case is a fish that might have become injured or nipped, and that area of the fish starts to rot. It starts to it becomes predisposed to it, and then it starts to progress. A fish that's been bullied, a fish that's been injured, bad tank mates that end up picking on each other, that could predispose you to that kind of disease. It's very ugly, and certainly if it gets around the gills, around the mouth, where the fish cannot breathe or can't eat, you're going to have a dead fish. Okay. There's another type of disease, and that's the type of disease that attaches to a fish, and in that category you would have things like gill flukes, anchor worms, and sometimes people even will classify a type of ick or ick in that category. If you look with magnification, you'll see that if you have anchor worms or gill flukes, things of this nature, there's movement. They are moving around. They look very different from ick, and this also is a disease that will manifest. It'll take hold in non-optimum conditions. So definitely keep your maintenance in, keep your water pristine, and really do the work to keep ideal conditions. Otherwise, you'll find that those kinds of things like the flukes, the anchor worms, things of this nature, they may actually have been in your tank from time to time, but if your fish were very hardy and they had a good healthy slime coat and a very strong overall constitution, they're going to be fine. But when the fish has been weakened by poor conditions or stress, they will actually remain or become a host for those kinds of diseases. Okay. There's another disease, of course, we have with us cichlid keepers. You have things like Malawi, like a bloating type of disease, and sometimes I've even heard it referred to as dropsy, where the fish will balloon out like someone's blown air into the fish, and the gills will stand out like a porcupine, and you can also get where the abdomen is, the stomach is extremely bloated. And this is, so you have a different type. This is, in real true dropsy, what you have is you have a bacteria, whereas in the Malawi bloat, you have more of a parasite, something that's gotten into the intestine of the fish. That can come from overfeeding and also from predisposing the fish with poor water conditions. Dropsy is bacterial. It can, it's an infection of the kidneys, which causes a fluid accumulation, and eventually you get kidney failure, and it tends to show up in weakened fish. The one thing that you're going to hear throughout all of these is that if your fish are weak, in other words, because they're living in poor, subpar conditions, they're going to be more prone to these diseases. Another disease is fungus, and fungus is a very ugly disease, and of course it's something that you'll see spots, you'll see gray or white fuzziness on the fish, and after a while it can look like someone took a cotton ball and glued it to your fish. This is a fungus, and it resembles a cottony growth. Eventually fungus continues to eat away at the fish's body, and the fish will die. And it says here that fish that develop fungus are ones that are already in a serious health condition. And I ran into some of this with the next one I'm going to speak with you about, which is MERIS. MERIS had weakened my fish, but this is a while back. That actually I have a video on it. The MERIS bacteria had weakened my fish, and then fungus showed up. I treated it like a fungus instead of treating it like MERIS. By the time I realized what I had, because it started showing up in other fish as not a cotton-like growth, but actually a silvery sheen that you can see here in this picture. And by the time I realized what I really had on my hands, I had lost about 50% of my stock. So, but I was able to treat it with a Fritz Aquatics gram-negative, it's called gram-negative bacteria type product, an antibiotic, and I was able to stop that MERIS. But certainly MERIS is a very serious disease, and once a fish is weakened by one disease, then fungus can show up and really help to kind of finish the fish off. Again, keep your tanks as clean as possible. Don't allow conditions in your tank to persist. If you have a lot of bullying going on, a lot of stress, definitely do something about that so that the fish is not compromised and their immune system is not working as well as it should. I think I need to also include ICHIK. ICHIK in this discussion. You can spell it ICHIK, only because ICHIK does kill a lot of fish for a lot of people, and it shouldn't. You can see here in the picture, it's very easy to identify. It's like someone took teeny grains of sand and glued it to the fish, and if you treat it right with medication, the right medication, and in my case I use cordon ICHIK, because as you can see behind me I have some clown loaches in here which are considered scaleless, and they can be a little bit overly sensitive to some of the other types of medications. So I used the cordon product, I raised the temperature, I did water changes, and I was able to beat the ICHIK and when it got into my tank. And I did a video about it. I'll put a link below. Okay, so I believe that's 5. Maybe I gave you a little more, but those are the diseases that jumped out at me when I was doing some research on this. And I recommend that you do a couple things. One, first and foremost, maintain the best water quality conditions, including pH, temperature, filter maintenance, things of this nature. Keep your tanks as pristine as possible. Definitely don't allow bullying or stress producing situations to persist, because these will allow diseases to actually take hold. And last, have medications handy. Have API Furon 2, have Metro, have the Fritz Aquatics antibiotics. Have medications on hand. API General Cure. Have these things on hand so that if you notice something, you can start treating right away. And also, always remember, while treating, take carbon and chemical filtration like Purigen, things of this nature, out of your filters. And after you're done treating, put some carbon in there for a few weeks to get out the residual medication, and then pull that carbon and toss it, okay? And that way you'll get rid of get the meds out of your tank. So those are the 5 that jumped out at me, and I hope these tips help you to avoid some of these diseases. They're pretty nasty, and in some cases, and of course, in all cases, when not treated quickly, they will be fatal and they will kill your fish. And that can be very, very frustrating. I know many fish keepers over the years I've come across that were about to leave the hobby after a devastating disease. With precautionary steps, with preventative measures, and good fish care habits, you don't have to go through that, okay? So that's it for me. Be sure to comment below. Have you had experience with these diseases? Have you had experience with others that maybe I didn't include in this? Share your thoughts below. We are a community of fish keepers that learn from each other. And also be sure to let me know if you feel that the sound on this video is acceptable and better than in prior videos, because as I mentioned, I am testing that pop voice microphone. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in, and that's it for me. A shout out to Eaven Alexander, IFG, the man, the myth, the legend, for his help with the 3 T's, the title, the thumbnail, and the tags. Thank you so much, Evan. Much appreciated, my friend.